Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Great to see everyone who's joined. My name is Jesper, and I'm going to be one of the hosts tonight. And we're going to start live interpretation straight away with the support of Cecile. Thank you so much, Cecile. After you rephrased this first message.
Merci, bienvenue à tout le monde ce soir. Je vais être interprète, donc je vais traduire vers le français. Et on va commencer ça tout de suite maintenant. Donc voilà. Suite à ça, vous aurez le canal français et vous pourrez entendre l'interprétation.
All right, so now language interpretation should be available. You can just click to get it started. All right, so Resilient Uprising was started by a team, myself, Michele, Beatrice, and others. And Beatrice, would you be able to share an opening context for the program before we start? Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so welcome everybody to Resilient Uprising. We are part of a global movement, and it's rooted in the long history of struggles for justice. And we know that so many struggles often failed in the short term, but never gave up. So our name reflects who we are, so resilient, hopefully, in the face of defeat, and committed to rising again together. So Resilient Uprising is built on three core priorities. First one, we fight for global freedom of movement. In a world where injustice and inequality often force people to flee, we believe that every person should have the right to move, to live with dignity, and to seek opportunity across borders. This is not just a matter of compassion, and it's essential if we want democracy to survive. Secondly, we believe that democracy must be reimagined and everywhere, and support democratic experimentation. So building systems that reflect the values and needs of each local context, while holding fast to the universal principles of freedom, justice, and equality. Third, we build networks of mutual support, knowing that no movement can win alone. And we stand in solidarity across continents, sharing knowledge and resources and strength, especially with those facing the harshest conditions. We believe that together we prepare we're not preparing only to challenge injustice, but we're also enduring what that challenge demands. And to make this vision real, our first and most important offering is this training program, which is Forging the Future. It's a space where we learn together, we can plan together, and begin building the world we believe in, step by step and side by side. We begin with module 1, which is grand strategy. So it's a dive into how movements can build power. And together we will study the patterns of failures and success and understand different models of social change. We will explore how momentum, trigger events, and polarization can be harnessed to shift societies. And this module, so the ground strategy module, is designed to strengthen your strategic thinking and also to give you tools to lead movements that can endure. This is not just resistance, its construction. So we are laying the foundations of a future that is more just, more united, and more resilient than the systems we seek to replace. So this is what we are, Resilient Uprising, and we are here to rise again and again until the world we believe in becomes reality. So thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to go into reflections from last session. So today we're going to be speaking about different models of power and how they operate. But before we do that, we are going to reflect for those who were here last time on some what we had, what we discussed and looked into at last session with a review of contemporary movements and what's been happening in the last 20 years. So we're gonna, and if you weren't here last time, you can still reflect on the overall questions. So which I'm gonna put in the chat. So like, why have there been so many popular uprisings, but a few wins the last major wins the last 2 decades? And what's the difference between like a problem like deforestation versus like a grievance where you know that the government is approving certain amount of logging each year, and there's a minister that you know the name of, and you know you can find out how often that happens. So if you are in a breakout room in English and you want it to be replaced into one in French, then just come back to the main room. So you click the leave button, and I think it's the blue icon that says leave breakout room and not the red one, which is leave the whole meeting. And then we can patch you into one of the French breakout rooms instead. So we're gonna have 5 minutes for this, so it's going to be quite brief, but good to open that. Good. You want to open the rooms, Beatrice?
Oh, it's not popped up to give me an option to join a room. I don't know if you want to manually put me in one. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David. I'll do that.
Ivan, are you going to a breakout? No, you're staying, right?
No, I was.
All right. And let's.
Jesper, can you give me the host permission?
Just starting the live interpretation. All right. So great. So we would love to hear any kind of things that came up in the chat in terms of the question, any reflections from last time, or why uprisings, so many popular uprisings in the last 20 years, but very few wins. So would love to put it in the chat, or we'll have time for a couple of people who can also share, and then we'll see if we can put it on the screen also. Let's see, I saw a hand somewhere. Was it Anna?
Yes, what came out of our little group was time. Time is of the essence, and maybe we don't think we're winning, but we're chipping away, and maybe the win will come when we, later in the future. And the other thing was that people are tired. People are very tired. They were the two things that came out.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, I see lack of purpose, lack of people, billionaire-owned right-wing media setup. In a spiritual way, inspire each other, disconnecting. The rich and the powerful are able to conquer and divide. Niall, one more person who wants to unmute and share verbally.
I can say something. In our breakout rooms, we spoke of American imperialism and techno-feudalism.
Thanks, Angelo. Yeah, two really prominent and decades-long projects there. That is really, really important. All right, so we're going to, and thanks for and do continue putting in the chat, and then we'll add them to just a summary of this. So I'm just gonna share a bit on the structure for the session today. And Beatrice, if you can enable that. So let's see. And then we need to save the whiteboard. So Beatrice, if you can give me the co-hosts rights.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
Okay.
There we go. Thanks. So we are going to have first part from Ivan, and thank you so much, Ivan, for being here on what is power. We're gonna have breakout rooms for about 12 minutes to start unpacking that. And then we're gonna continue with like how power operates for 20 minutes. Another breakout room where we, in the same breakout rooms, where we continue to go deeper with our groups. We're going to have some reflections and next steps. And we're also going to add about 25 minutes at the end for those who want to continue with what they've started unpacking in the breakout rooms. So we have extended the sessions. We're gonna have a 5-minute break after the full 90 minutes, and then we're gonna continue for another 25 minutes for those who want to. All right, so without further ado, thank you so much, Ivan, for all you've been supporting with this, and also the sessions we had last autumn with many people, and it's really appreciated that we can really unpack this key topic with you. Do you want to take your own?
No, I mean you can continue with the
Okay.
slides. I'll just tell you when to move to the next slide.
Then again, that's good. Thanks.
Okay. Well, greetings everyone. It's good to see you all on this Sunday evening, I guess, afternoon, evening. So we're going to look at power, and I always think that like it's important to talk about power first. because why? Because what we are doing when we're building movements, this is essentially about power. We're trying to shift power. We're trying to contest power, and we're trying to build power. So in order to be able to do that, maybe we should, how should I say, at least be on the same page, if not understand power better. So let's go to the next slide and ask the ultimate question: what is power? When we're thinking about power, what do we think about? And power is a contested concept, so like democracy is contested concept, like freedom is contested concept, like justice. Like it's not easy to give a single definition, but understanding what is power actually is essential for our success as movements. So in order to answer this question, I would propose that we kind of rephrase it a little bit in order to get to the question, what is power? So the next slide, rephrasing that question on the next slide, rather than what is power, where is power? So if we think about, we can look at our society, or we can look at a particular group of people, or an organization, or an institution, whatever. But let's say in a society, we can ask ourselves, where is power? If we look at if we visualize this society or this group as a pyramid, we can ask ourselves, where is power? Is it at the top of the pyramid? Is it at the bottom of the pyramid? Is it even in one place on that pyramid? So type in the chat. What do you think? Like, just immediate reaction. Where do you think it is? Top, bottom, everywhere, somewhere, middle, whatever. Okay, some people say top, some people say everywhere. Okay, a lot of them saying top, some of them saying bottom. So, as I can see, even from the first 2, 3 answers, we don't have a single perception. We don't have a common perception of where power is. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit more. Thank you for your input. So let's move to the next slide. What if power is at the top? So some people here did put that power is at the top, or at least some of it. When we think that power is at the top, this is where we focus most of our attention and most of our strategies. When we are building our strategies, when we're building our movements and we're developing our strategies, our focus is on changing essentially those that are at the top of the society. So when you think about it, whether this is protesting and demanding somebody's resignation, or trying to unseat them in the election, or through some other means, or even if you're just trying to petition grievances and get the people on the top to change their behavior, to change their policies, all these strategies have one thing in common. The underlying assumption is that they possess power. So if they change, either they change their mind or they're being replaced by somebody else, that these policies are going to change. So our focus, when we believe that power is at the top, is to actually take these commanding heights to replace or at least transform and change the top of the pyramid in order to then later lead to some greater change. Let's look at the next one. What if power is at the bottom? So if we have perception that power is at the bottom of the pyramid, that means the assumption is that if we organize in the grassroots, if we create the political force, the political and social force that is going to be able to move the bottom of the pyramid, then what is going to happen to the top of the pyramid? If we move the bottom of the pyramid, if we move the grassroots, if we move the population, what is going to happen to the top of the pyramid? It's either going to follow along to kind of change their behavior, change their policies in order to reflect the shifting public opinion, or if they don't do that, what is going to happen to them? They're going to fall off. So perception behind this approach is that the real power is in the grassroots at the bottom. And if we are able to organize at the bottom, we will actually essentially change the top, either by forcing them to change or replacing them altogether. But let's look at the third option. What if power is not in one place? What if power is actually determined by the shape of the pyramid? And that's another way to look at it. You know, for instance, you know, you can replace somebody who is at the top, but that means that like somebody else is going to occupy that top, and then it's going to perpetuate the same power dynamics that existed beforehand. And if power is determined by the shape of the pyramid, if it's actually determined by the structure, then what is needed is much more fundamental change and much more fundamental transformation of the society and of that power pyramid. So these are the kind of differences in perception lead to different, how shall I say, different type of analysis. But let's put it in a little bit more formal way. So on the next slide, the same thing, we can say that there are three models of power. The monolithic, where, you know, we believe that power actually lies at the top, and it's kind of the power model that depends on like the notion of the elite, the notion of the hierarchy, the notion of like rigid structures. Then we have the pluralistic one, which is more like dynamic, the type of power that depends on like alliances, depends on organization and power in the grassroots. And then the more deterministic or structural theory of power, where actually we believe that structure is the one that determines power relations. So that structure can be, I don't know, patriarchy, it can be capitalism, it can be, how should I say, any kind of social and political structure that actually determines the power relations, rather than that they are intrinsic or like in the case of monolithic theory, they're just given. Let's go to the next slide. I just want to have a little kind of comparison here. So when we look at the monolithic, the first model of power, the source of power is in the elites. We believe power is at the top. If we look at the nature of power, it's concentrated there. You know, it's as I said, it's hierarchical. And you know, the thing is, from what we spoke about when we were talking about grievances and hardship, you know, this is the attitude is you accept things as they are. There's like nothing you can do about it. And the idea of action is to influence those power centers. If we look at the pluralistic one, so there are different interest groups. It's not like one source of power. There are many, and they're dispersed. And the way it manifests itself is through alliances, so building different alliances. And that analysis is more focused on like positive analysis and engagement in the grassroots, especially, and challenging that power. And then we look at this third one, deterministic, that is kind of based on structural theory. The source of power is the structure. It's the structure of society. The nature is very elusive. We cannot find that very easily. If you look at any analysis of capitalism, that's where it is. And then the manifestation of it is in social reproduction. And then we can actually see that like the idea of how we overcome that is we have to transcend that. We have to reshape that pyramid. And so, you know, the reason why we are having all these is kind of see what is out there. And our perception of power can be a combination of the three. It can be something else, but we kind of laid out these three just to kind of start the discussion, get the discussion going, so that we can actually understand better our original question, what is power? So if we go to the next slide, we're going to do breakout rooms now. And what you already started saying in the chat, when I ask you to answer where is power, now we can actually elaborate more. So for 12 minutes, we're going to go into breakout rooms and we're going to answer the following two questions. The first one is, how do you see power manifest itself? You know, like in a sense, like, you know, if we look at these different models of power or some other model that you have in mind. And then the follow-up question is, what should we do about it? Like, what should be the proper analysis and the right strategy? And for 12 minutes, that, you know, means a couple of minutes each, you can like share, and then we're going to come back and we're going to pick 3 or 4 insights from the breakout rooms, and we're going to continue our discussion. Are we ready to do that, Jesper?
Over to you. And are we live, Bia, with the interpretation? Yep, good. Thanks,
Great.
Ivan.
Welcome back. I hope you had a fruitful discussion in the breakout rooms. You know, can we have like somebody to share like the stuff that, you know, maybe there was a group where everybody was on the same page when it comes to how they see power. Maybe there was a group where people had opposite views, but let's hear some of the people who would like to. Andreas, go ahead.
Yes, couple of things I felt very strong in, and my breakout room was like, and that power is also when you depend on others, like you depend on resources, the food supply, and the ones in control are kind of can make your life, yeah, miserable or bad. And so there is like, and then to overcome this, like you would have to be, if you're independent and everybody has a say, you could overcome and like some kind of power dependent power structure. And another theme I felt like kind of strongly was that like that often we feel like we play a game, like, you know, you get a promotion, whatever, but we play the game, we feel like we have to play, but we might be never learn, we kind of have to unlearn, or there may be another game to play. We just kind of, by observing how others act, we feel that's the game to play, and that might be wrong.
That's good. I like that, like the metaphor of a game. Okay, Fede.
Yeah, something I was thinking about is that power only exists in human society. At least I feel like it's more a concept we are used to share, like that. Yeah, there is power, but David said, and this showed me another point of view, that also in other animal species you find power. So it's like basically natural to have some of you that has more power, but my opinion is that, and also the Gorian one, I think, if I understand good, is that this vision of power don't bring people to see that in a pluralistic way. It's just, yeah, there is power, so one has all the power and the others are at the bottom, and so we have to fight the elites. And so this vision see us without power, and these don't lead change, because we are used to see power in, okay, one has it and one not. So yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, I think this is, you know, like it's important that, like, you know, we kind of see this as natural, and I think it's actually an important point that, you know, that it is a social kind of phenomenon, like power is. Let's hear one more, and maybe somebody has another take. Okay, let's if nobody wants to, I would like to propose something else. So, Andrea said earlier like that power is a game, and I would like you to now spend like 2-3 minutes. I don't know how long is the video clip, but we would like to share a video clip with you that pretty much talks about this game, and so in the English version that you will see in the chat, the English version is the first one. The French version is right underneath, and if you click on the link, you will be able to check out the video, and then we come back and we will continue. But okay, as people are coming back, watching the link, if people like, you can type in the chat if you agree with Varis about this notion that power is a trick and a shadow on the wall, and that it resides where people believe it resides. It's kind of like a very postmodern definition of power, I would say. I don't know if people have, if people agree, yes or no, you can kind of put in the chat. But let's go to the next slide. And this is actually, this clip leads us to our going back to our models of power, and the notion of power and our perception of power is that the way we perceive political power is actually going to influence our strategy towards it. So if we believe that power is concentrated at the top of the pyramid, our strategies are going to be aimed at actually targeting that top of the pyramid, one strategy or the other. If we believe that power is dispersed throughout the society, our strategies are going to be ones of like building alliances and trying to organize people in the grassroots. So in a sense, the reason why we have disagreements over strategy in our movements is actually behind those strategies. There are different perceptions of power. There are different models of power, different ways we see power operate in the society. And then those perceptions of power that we bring into our conversation about strategy influence the differences that we have over strategy. So when we see movements fighting over strategic choice or disagreeing over what next is to be done, I would suggest it's better to step back and to talk about our perceptions of power. How do we see power? Where do we think power lies? Because understanding that better is going to actually help us down the line when we are talking about strategy. Okay, so we have some of the reactions in the chat. Fede says, totally. Power is a social construct, and if you see it to the ability of changing reality. But then Felix says, but power is also technology, social media, and media itself is everywhere and under techno-feudalism, so we're forced to take part in it and be shaped at it. So that's pretty much that structuralist notion that, the structure, in this case, techno-feudalism and social media actually determines how power operates. Okay, so if power is based on perception, or it's actually perception influences our strategy, then we should look at it more closely in more practical sense. So far, we looked at concept of power, but we would like now to be more practical. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to look at like more practical how power operates in the society. And so let's look at the school, or So like every school has a school principal, it has a bunch of teachers, administrators, and then technical staff like janitors. And so if you want to go to a classroom which is locked and you need to get keys to that classroom, who should you talk to? Who has the keys to the classroom? Let's hear in the chat what people believe. Like, where would you go if you need to get the keys to the classroom? Okay, a lot of people say janitor. Okay. So it is important to understand how power operates technically, because we can think that like the top of the school, the person who is in charge is the administrator, but actually for a particular manifestation of power, for a particular technical manifestation of power, we need to understand where the keys are, who actually holds the keys. And maybe it's the janitor, and some people say maybe it's the principal who has them in the locker. Maybe it's the administrator in the box that the janitor gets when needed. Maybe janitor and the principal have all the keys. Maybe it's the teacher who will more likely open the doors. So in a sense, we have to understand technically how power operates rather than who formally is at the top of the pyramid. Let's go to the next slide. So that takes us to the concept that we call pillars of support. And if we look at the government that is ruling any kind of complex society, it cannot rule that society directly. I mean, maybe that was possible back in the Bronze Age, where, like it was just like one king, a bunch of warriors around the king, and then everybody else was a farmer. But in a modern complex society, which kind of performs different functions, the government is also complex, and the institutions beyond the government that actually make the society function and that actually allow for power holders to implement their political decisions are also numerous. And we call these institutions and organizations pillars of support because they do uphold this kind of edifice, this kind of government building, like as it is presented here. So anything from bureaucracy, civil service, police, military, media, business community, religious groups, etc., etc. So similarly to how we in that school, we need to understand who has the keys and what are the different functions in that school. In the same way, in a society, we need to also understand what are the different institutions and organizations that uphold the status quo, so-called pillars of support. Let's go to the next slide. And so if we cut a particular pillar and look at the cross-section of that particular pillar, we will see that even that pillar has different layers. At the center of it are the people who are in charge of that pillar. And then as we move to the outskirts of that pillar, to the outer layers, we see people who are less powerful or less influential. But they are still important in kind of making that pillar of support, that particular institution organization function. So for instance, if we like in this example, we did a cross section of the military, and we have generals at the center. They are the ones who are making all the decisions, and they're kind of in charge. We have officers and petty officers who are implementing those decisions, and they're running the show on a daily basis. But actually, the army or the military, it consists essentially of soldiers. They are at the outside of that pillar, the outer layer, but they are essential for the functioning of that pillar. We can say the same thing for the business community, where we can say like CEOs and managers at the towards the center, then foremen to the outer layers, and then workers on the outside outer layers of that pillar. Let's go to the next slide. For instance, if we look at the media, like we can say, you know, the internal one is the editors and managers of media companies. Then we have reporters in the outside layer. But essentially, what media is all about is readers and people who are consuming those media. They constitute the outer layer of that pillar. Next slide. So we can look at these different layers, you know, in this form. Like at the center are those who make political decisions. They actually decide what needs to be done, but their decisions mean nothing if there's no political will, if there is no kind of ability or interest to implement that. And then even that political will, even those people who are actually implementing the decisions, they operate in a larger political climate that is either conducive or not so conducive to those political decisions. So what does that mean for movements? Let's go to the next slide. When movements kind of target a particular pillar of support, it's like peeling an onion. The movements are first going at that outer pillar, the political climate. They change the political climate. When they change the political climate, it actually makes more difficult for political will to sustain itself and political decisions to be made. So for instance, in the case of the media, you know, what changes first is the readers. You know, the movement actually changes how readers consume news, and do they believe in the news that they consume, and how they react to that. That actually is going to put the news producers, like reporters and editors, in a much more different position. And this is how movements actually change stuff. You can say the same thing about, let's say, the business community. The movements, the reason why movements succeed, let's say the labor movement, is because they organize workers, and then after the workers are organized and they go on strikes and boycotts and other forms of disobedience, that actually forces the foremen and the business managers later to change and to move along. So this notion of peeling an onion is an important thing. Let's go to the next slide. So when we peel the onion, what happens is that the pillar is being weakened. And so this pillar then is either going to be destabilized, or the center of the pillar, the people who are in charge, are going to make certain changes in order to prevent the weakening of that pillar. But by essentially doing that, that pillar shifts or changes. So one of the important things for the movement is to understand the pillars, the institutional organizations that run, that make the power possible to implement, the government possible to implement power, implement their decisions. And then when they understand that, also to know how to weaken each of these pillars one by one, and by doing that to pretty much create that power shift. Let's go to the next slide. So when we introduce this concept of like more technical analysis of like how power operates, especially in a complex society like the modern society, now we can have a breakout room in which we're going to talk about what are the implications on the strategy. So rather than thinking about conceptual power like we did in the beginning, where we saw that perception of power actually is going to influence the way we develop our strategy. Now we're going to look at more technical aspect of how power works, and we're going to see how that may have implications on the strategy of our organizations. Let's go into the breakout rooms for 15 minutes and discuss the implications of this. I'll come back, find the interpretation, and pick your correct language. Okay, let's hear from some of the people. What are like maybe 2 or 3 report backs from breakout rooms on like what are the implications on strategy, and if people had any insights into that. What are the implications of this power analysis on our, especially when we're looking at pillars of support and this kind of more complex ways that power works? Felix, and then Gorian.
Yeah. So one thing we talked about is sometimes with this model, it's hard to see where the general public exists in this model. Like for example, we've done actions with XR here in in Belgium that are more about public awareness, like protesting outside of BNP Paribas for public awareness to show like, this bank is doing horrible things. You should move your money elsewhere. And like, I guess that is under the business pillar, but then the business pillar is the outside ring, just a huge consumer like block. And I'm wondering like, it's sometimes hard to see how like public perception campaigns and public awareness campaigns fit within this model.
That's a great question. Yeah, like can we actually shift pillars by through public awareness or through influencing public opinion? That's a great question. Gorian.
So looking at my notes, I don't think we thought about that much about like pillars of power, but like the previous thing with the clip, or that like people have power when you tell them that they have power. You know that what we learned is that basically perception of reality changes the reality itself. So it like reminded someone of something Erica Chenvos said, that like people are powerless because they believe are powerless. And it makes a lot of sense because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When people believe they're powerless, then they don't do anything because they believe they can't make a change. And another thing is that the manifestation of power can be like very real, like with weapons, for example. Like no matter who you say has the power, if someone is threatening you with a gun, for example, you can't like do much in that sense. And also that someone pointed out that kind of double-mindedness, like discrepancy in like the thinking of last generation, that like we need to mobilize the greater public and take it away from the elite, which was a very like good thing. But at the same time, they did road blockades that like offend the public and make them very angry. So how can you? It's like, how can you mobilize a public, like people that are very angry at you? So that was a reflection as well. That I think I spoke too much. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. These are some great points. Margie, right? Let's hear from you, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I'm Margie.
Margie, sorry.
Yeah, one of the things is the importance of, I think, popular education and using using actions that are on targets from the pillars, like choosing targets from the pillars and analyzing things collectively assists 2 things. One is popular education as you choose those targets and go out and act on those targets in creative ways. And the second thing is that you're building your organizational cohort to think strategically. So your organizers, and if you do that work collectively and you continually analyzing targets or as often as you possibly can. Like we tend to only do it once a year, really, but we probably need to do it probably more often than that. But it enables people to see what the possibilities are, so that when they become sort of independent organizers, they can choose other parts of the system. And also when you're prefiguring and you're just trying, what we've done is just try different things on different parts of the target system, or the targets being, one of those elements out of the pillars. Then you're also scouting and learning and figuring out what's out there and how things respond. And it just gives you a place to decide, to make decisions. It gives you a system for making decisions, and enables organizers to also learn a system for making decisions, and which targets are better and which have where the weaknesses are. And it's sort of an iterative process of figuring out that technical, what actually makes up the system.
These are excellent points. I would just like stress what you said, that it's actually not really the kind of a specific strategy or a strategic plan that movement has to come up with, but it's actually the strategic thinking and strategic behavior of all the organizers, so that they can actually always apply that strategic thinking even when the circumstances change. Because in new circumstances, your strategic plan may be totally obsolete, and you may kind of have to throw it out of the window. But that strategic thinking actually makes the movement adaptable. And then another point that you made about popular education is actually training not just your organizers, but like a wider movement following is key, so they can actually adopt that strategic thinking. Okay, thank you. These were some great points, and some great points also in the chat. I think let's pull up the slides and wrap up. So we're gonna have some homework for you, and we're gonna share the kind of a handout, but pretty much like how to use pillars of support analytic tool to kind of map pillars of support and identify these different layers, and then select which pillar to work on and to target. So that we'll share. It's already, Jesper already shared it in the chat. There is like a little handout that helps with that. And then final slide, which is, for people who want to dig deeper, but I warn you, the first book and is by Wilfredo Pareto, is more about this. He introduced the concept of the elite, and it's more about elitist theories of power and how that came about. So this is like a 100-year-old book, so sometimes may be difficult to read. But the second one, and actually this is not the link is not to the book, but actually to the article by Brian Martin, Gene Sharp's Theory of Power, where pretty much what we discussed earlier, different models of power and different theories of power, are laid out in that article. This is written by Brian Martin, who is most known for his in Australia, I think University of Melbourne or something, or maybe Sydney, I don't even know. But
Wollongong. Wollongong.
Oh my God, I totally missed it. Thank you, Margie. But he's great when it comes to the concept of backfire, which we will probably cover at some point in the course. But for now, really has a good article on different theories of power, and like what are their shortcomings, what are their strengths, etc., etc. So whoever wants to dig deeper, I recommend this too. And that is all. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much,
Let's
Ivan.
go back to Jesper and Bea.
Thank you so much. So we're gonna have we have gotten the feedback from last time that just having these 90 minutes is short on very expansive topics. And so we're adding these 25 minutes after the call, so we are a bit over time, but we're also going to be starting having like a first day session, usually the following first day, but since this is the first time we're announcing it, it's not going to be on next first day, but the first day after that. at the same time, where you can register. I just put the link in the chat. And then we're gonna have in 2 weeks we're gonna have another session with Ivan on momentum and power, how to build up trigger events and use strategic polarization to fuel social change. And then in a month from now, we're gonna have Sinan from who's active in Climaximo about movements and currents. And then in 6 weeks, we're going to have Alex Lockwood, who is co-founder of Animal Rising and speaking about working with grand narrative. So thanks everyone for coming. Those who want to stay, we're going to have a 5-minute break. And thank you everyone for coming. Please unmute and say some greetings in your language.
Tusen tack, Jesper.
Muchas gracias.
Thank
Estuvo muy
you.
interesante.
Благодаря, Иван, за
Grazie mille.
prezentacията.
Grazie. Grazie mille.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So I'm gonna launch a poll on where we want to go. If we want to go with the first part of like the concept and perception of power, or if we want to go more on the technical, operational discussion of how it works, or in our. All right. There's 11 answers.
We have a clear winner.
We have a clear winner. Good. So we'll end the poll. We have the results here. And you want to frame it before we go into another, like, so the idea is to have now another small breakout for like, let's say 8-10 minutes, and then we do a plenary based on that. Do you want to frame it in some way, Ivan?
So I think there were two issues that were raised already, and I think we can expand on them. First one is, I think Felix was the one to raise the kind of the role of the public opinion, and like how does public opinion shift these pillars, and there were a couple of examples already in the chat regarding the roadblocks, and maybe that is one of the questions. And another question that I think is really, I think, key, and we can expand on it, was Margie raised that issue of like, popular education, and like how we actually get people to act strategically and to be able to influence those pillars of support. First understand them and then influence them. So I don't know if there is anything else that people have in mind, but these are the two things that I identified. And let's look at the chat.
All right. Handing it over to you, Ivan.
Okay. I didn't know I'm going to be facilitating this. Okay, let's do it. So let's hear from some of the things that were discussed in the groups, and I was in one of the groups. It was really awesome. But let's see who would like to kick us off and share some of the things that were, and we're gonna have some reflections maybe. Gorian, go ahead.
So we discussed that, like, some people mentioned that, like, there's been a change of like causing like building on the pillars of power, and also to building like normal people going about the day, and that like general strikes have been tried in the US, and then someone from Argentina said that like they've done that a lot in Argentina, but then got vilified a lot, and what's seen as like a nuisance, people who are trying to strike, doing general strikes and such, and and I was just thinking that like the media, they have a lot of power in this, because how like if the media just chooses to support the movement or not, it can be very crucial. If they're vilified or praised, they can change that. Even they can dictate the majority opinion, even if it's like something like a road blockade, like the farmers' protest. Nobody like the media didn't smear them like climate protesters did when they blocked the road. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Like, if you're sitting on a tractor, you can block the road. Pretty much if you're yeah. And it's like everywhere. Like it's amazing how that works. I remember in 2011, when there was protests in Wisconsin, what was his name? Scott Walker was the governor at the time. And so this was like predating Occupy Wall Street, a couple of months before. And so the protesters actually managed to get like farmers on board for whatever reason, and the farmers came in with the tractors and blocked the road, and everybody like loved it. And I was like thinking like, this was like something that was not seen as a classic like left-wing constituency, but it really shifted perception just because they were farmers. Shadrach, you were raising your hand.
Yeah. Yes, I think there's something that I've come to understand about this public opinion trying to shift the pillars. And as we were sharing in our room, these pillars, they are made of stones. And it depends with the type of stone that you're using to build your pillar. There are some that are too weak and some that are too strong. But for us to shift these pillars, we've got to have people, our own people, who we know them and we are accountable that they are going to deliver. Because if we are going to have people who are just moving with the way the power is moving, it's going to be hard for us to shift these pillars. For example, like has what we might be facing in my country is that the public participation is only to cover up, or is only just to make people feel that they have participated, yet they have not participated. It is the elites who have participated in making some of the rules. But you, as a normal citizen, you are just given something just to sign and feel that you have already participated, yet they made the amendments in their own meetings, but you are just there to just feel like you are heard. So for us to shift these pillars, we need to have our own people who have gone through what you have gone, and people who cannot be compromised. Yes, I think that is one way to deal or to shift the pillars. Yeah, having your own people.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great insight. Asante sana.
True. Asante sana, Kiswahili word.
Yeah, kidogo.
True. Thank you.
Okay, who wants to go? Who wants to go next? Maybe to kind of have like a little, report from the other topics that were covered here around. I know we were in our group talking about, not just training as such and changing strategic behavior, but also the whole question of like non-violence and but maybe there is something else that was covered in the breakout rooms, and also keeping in mind that we should wrap up shortly. But I don't want to cut off people from other breakout rooms that would like to share. Okay, I guess. Okay, I guess we have reached the end of our after party, as we call it, after the official session. But I really think that like some of the stuff that was discussed in this last half an hour were very, very insightful. Back to you, Bea and Jesper, and to close it.
Thank you so much, Ivan. So we'll have more time on the 22nd where we can do work on the homework that everybody's gotten. It's a one-pager which you can fill in. So that's going to be the basis for the session that we're going to host ourselves. So it's going to be Michele, Beatrice, and myself, and who's going to host that together with Paul, who's also here. Yeah, look forward to seeing you there. And Laurie, answer to your question, we'll send it to you. We've started a Telegram group instead of WhatsApp. So we have a community space. And if you just stay with for 1 minute, I'll post you the link. And we would love to hear any feedbacks you have about how this kind of after session add-on time worked for you, if we want to keep doing that, or because we think like the 90 minutes is probably a lot of people will only come for that, but it's we want to have more time. So we'd love to hear your feedback. So just reply to one of the emails, and yeah, that will be really appreciated. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's unmute and give our greetings.
Goodbye. Have a good night.
Bye. Vidimo se sled 2 sedmici.
Opa, super, vidimo se.
Kwaheri. Kwaheri, muwe na siku njema.
Bella ciao.